Hello, people. Hi, I'm Katie. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite historical fiction books. So, I've mentioned this in previous videos. I am a history major. I'm in grad school for public history, which is basically museums and archives and all that good stuff. So, I've always read historical fiction. Ever since I can remember, I've read historical fiction. It's one of my favorite genres. So I have some recommendations for historical fiction. I think it's one of those things that you either like or you think history is boring. History is not always boring, just so you know. And I know that's just me, but it's not always boring. So here we go. First up is Out of the Easy by Brutus. This one is about this girl in 1950 New Orleans who, her mother is a prostitute, and she kind of is caught between like living this life that she doesn't want to live and then wanting to go to college desperately. And education is very important, and she gets caught up in this murder investigation. She works at a bookstore, and someone who comes into the bookstore ends up dead, so she gets caught up in that. I love this author, but this is probably my favorite by her. I love all her books, but this is my absolute favorite by her. So there's that. And this is one everybody talks about, The Diviners by Libba Bray. I think everybody knows what this is about at this point. Basically, it's 1920s New York. This girl named Evie O'Neill gets in trouble in her Ohio hometown and ends up having to go live with her uncle in New York, and her uncle runs this occult museum that everybody is like, oh, your uncle is that guy who's super weird, and so she ends up being caught. Her uncle is in charge, again, in a serial killer investigation, and Evie kind of has to come to terms with her powers. I run this group of people called the Diviners who have extraordinary powers. Next, I'm not good at this, is Tyranny of Petticoats. This is edited by Jessica Spotswood. This is 15 historical fiction stories with kind of teenage girls at the helm. It goes from I just ordered a copy of this for Christmas for myself. So I got it out of the library the first time. It goes from kind of the 1700s to 1968. And I don't read that many short stories, but I really liked this one. One, because it's historical fiction, and two, because it's all about girls, and it's important, and it's important for girls to play a big part in this. So here is the cover. Next is The War Outside by Monica Hesse. This is another recent read of mine. It's about these two girls who, one is Japanese, so it's about an internment camp, but this is a really special internment camp. It's basically a camp for people who they think are, for families who are especially akin to doing something with the government or overthrowing the government, or they might be traitors. So anyway, this is about a Japanese American girl and a German American girl, because they're both German Americans, and Japanese people are at the same camp, because this is one of those weird camps, or it's not, every camp is weird. Camps are bad. They're basically internment camps. This is all terrible. Anyway, But this is the one camp where those two groups of people were there together. Because they thought these people were extra special threats to the government. So it's about these two girls, Hariko and Margot, who come up or have this friendship, even though they're very different, in kind of this extraordinary situation that's terrible, and it's just so good. And I didn't know that they had camps for both groups of people. It's very disappointing as a history major knowing that they had camps like this and you didn't know. So it's a very important book. Next is Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Latham. This is about a girl named Rowan who lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma with her family, and I think that's supposed to be her on the cover. Anyway, her parents are remodeling her house, and workers find a skeleton in her backyard when they're digging for a pool, or they're redoing the backyard. Anyway, so obviously that's very scary. But she and her best friend kind of dig deeper into the situation. They find a receipt in the pockets of the clothing that the person was wearing, and it leads them to the events surrounding the 1921 Tulsa race riots, which, like, over a 2-day period, the entire black section of Tulsa was essentially burned to the ground. So it's about, it alternates between the person they think it, like, the skeleton is, and Rowan and her friend trying to figure out what happened to this person. And so it's a mystery, historical fiction. It says a lot about kind of the times we're living in, and how some things have changed and some things haven't changed, and so good. Next is Outrun the Moon by Stacey Lee. This takes place in 1906 San Francisco, and it's about a girl named Mercy Wong, who is Chinese, was born in San Francisco to a Chinese family, and she wants to further her education, but that's kind of hindered because, 1, she's a girl, and 2, she's Chinese. So she kind of makes this deal with this principal or head of this girls' school in San Francisco to enter the school. And she does, and it's kind of about her life there, intertwined with the events of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, which was a big deal for San Francisco at the time. Buildings were destroyed. There were so many fires. It was especially hard on the Chinese American section of Chinatown. So this is a very important book. It's about her trying to survive this event, and what that means for her as a Chinese girl, what it means for the city of San Francisco at the time, all that good stuff. Lastly, this is a series called Walk on Earth a Stranger. It's the Gold Seer trilogy by Ray Carson. The second books are Like a River Glorious, and then the third book is Into the Bright Unknown. This is about a girl named Leah Westfall, known as Lee, who has this sense she can sense gold, and she lives in Georgia with her parents. Her parents are murdered, and she kind of, after that, I won't give too many spoilers away, but she kind of runs away to California because the California gold rush has just started. So she wants to go there just to get away from some of the people who may try to, use her for her power in this. So it's a very good book. It's a very good series. It's one of those underrated series. I think a lot of people are just like, you either like it or you don't like it. I really loved this. So the first book is basically about her journey to California and how hard it was trying to, she disguises herself as a boy. I should say that. And she kind of, goes to California that way. She meets up with her best friend, and they join a wagon train and to California and all this stuff, but it's very good. So that is the end of my video. I hope that you all liked it. I'm not dressed. I don't wear makeup or anything like this, so this is how you will see me for if I make any future videos. Okay,